Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Trey Johnson. Trey is the Chief Evangelist and America's Business Leader for Zap. Zap is delivering an edition of the Sage and Data and Analytics for Sage 300, 100, and Sage X3 customer base, and on ERP has never been a bigger passion for Trey. When not talking about data and analytics, you can often find him turning a wrench on a classic Porsche automobile restoration. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Trey Johnson.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here with you.
Well, first off, Trey, why do you do what you do?
I think, I discovered, relatively early in my career, a passion for data, a desire to really, explore information, turn that information into insights, and that kind of continued into the analytics spectrum as well. And I've blinked and a fairly significant amount of my career has gone by doing the thing that I loved. So.
And talk to me a little bit about that. How does data and analytics extend a customer's ERP system?
It's very interesting because, some often organizations are looking at maybe reports simplistically, out of their ERP organization. They might be looking at certain nuances that affect, one part of the organization, say finance or maybe a supply chain area. But oftentimes they don't quite have the capability to look analytically. And so analytically being a higher level view, looking at it more from a dashboard's perspective around some key indicators. And then beyond that, really the data that feeds the analytics that they look at. So most people think that a data and analytics product is really solely focused on the ERP data, but the better products or the best opportunity to provide an answer is oftentimes other complementary data. So that might be CRM based data. It might be other data applications that exist within that organization, giving folks some other insights.
I think one of the key insights from Clayton Christensen was that data is only available about the past, right? To get real insight requires a future, positing a theory into the future. And how does data and analytics potentially help customers do a better job at that?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a foundation there, that, you have to have some semblance of historical data to be able to kind of, project or otherwise see, what is potentially going to happen. In the day and age that we're in right now, there's such rapid shifts in the way things happen from a market perspective or from the business customers that we serve perspective, that oftentimes not having, that ability to kind of feed in some data that is current along with the historical patterns becomes fairly challenging. And certainly our experiences has been the more of those types of data that you can feed in to project the outcome, the better of a position that you're in.
So you're also saying that, nobody's data and analytics tool predicted COVID.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Absolutely.
But what did it do for organizations who, they certainly couldn't predict that COVID was going to happen, but what did a data and analytics tool do to help those make the adjustment, say, potentially a little bit faster?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, we were very fortunate that we, instituted a program with Sage. It was called Do Good with Data, and we were very proud of, kind of what we achieved, kind of over the COVID time frame, working with organizations. But those customers that were already invested around data and analytics is either a product or is as a paradigm within their business. They were actually in a better position to respond to the scenarios where significant disruption in the supply chain where they could actually understand what the vendor performance looked like now versus what it was historically, that they could manage those outbound relationships with the customers that had placed orders. I think we've all kind of experienced in a personal way the supply chain around elements of COVID in terms of not being able to get some access to some things that we wanted. Put that on a scale where other businesses are possibly feeling a bit at risk because their supply chain isn't being fulfilled. Having data and analytics, certainly if you're the intermediary that's providing information, or not information, but actually resources to another downstream organization in the supply chain, being able to kind of communicate that information, be in a strong position to say, this is what's coming, but it's not coming until this point. Those sorts of things is a huge benefit. More so, there's just better insights into the relationships with customers. We have a number of examples in that regard.
And talk a little bit about maybe one or two of those where you've experienced that better relationship with the customer.
Yeah, a perfect example, and have seen this really distinctly in a couple of different ways, is the organizations when they do take on data and analytics and really embrace more than just the ERP data, but other external sources of data. It allows them to educate a different audience in their organization. As an example, a sales team that's actually out interacting with customers. Joe salesperson is making sales to this customer, thinks they're great, they're continuously buying, so on and so forth. However, those folks kind of behind the other side of the delivery side of things, both in finance and operations, they know that Joe's customer is slow to pay the bills, maybe has an inordinate number of returns, or just simply is just not the best of customers to have a relationship with. What's really great is you can take those salient data points from the ERP side, promote those so that they're very visible to the salesperson. So the salesperson, as a bit of a relationship owner with that customer, can really start to kind of change the way that customer works with the organization from the sale onward.
And Trey, we've got an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
I've been asked this a few times in my life, and it's been very consistently the same person. It's very much my father. My father unfortunately passed this past year, but he instilled a lot of just hard work, particularly in the face of adversity. Was always a very measured person in terms of taking on, kind of the information first before he reacted, which is just it's kind of a wonderful characteristic, whether you're talking about a person or talking about an organization. The heroic aspects are he faced just an inordinate amount of adversity in his life, was a military veteran, and frankly was somebody I could look up to in every way.
And lastly, Trey, how can somebody contact you?
Yeah, sure. So if folks want to reach me personally, the best email address is through Zap. That's trey.johnson@zapbi.com. If folks want to learn a little bit more about Zap Data Hub or Sage Data and Analytics, particularly from a Sage perspective, I would highly encourage them to reach out to their Sage business partner, whether it be Sage 300, 100, or X3. And if you're a Sage business partner and want to learn more about it, please do talk to your PM, because they'll have all the information that you need.
All right. Trey Johnson, Chief Evangelist and America's Business Leader for Zap. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Ed.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.